Okay, you're on camera.
Okay.
And look over there, just look over there at Ross.
I was born in a little town called Royersford in Pennsylvania, right near Valley Forge. You heard of Valley Forge and their dogwood? Maybe not, but years ago it was a beautiful place. People would come from miles around and when the dogwood trees were in blossom, and they'd have festivals and big times. It was quite a celebration. I guess that's what people do when there's nothing else to do. But we did enjoy them. I went to school there in Royersford. In one first and second grade and in a nice school, and then third through sixth in a very old building, but very good teachers. Strict, but we learned something, and we got our share of fun things too. It was nice. I never got to college. I always wanted to be a nurse. Never wanted to be anything else but a nurse. I never made it to get a nurse's license, but I did a lot of nursing work, taking care of old people and putting Band-Aids on kids at school and just helping wherever I could. I did very well in school, was an honor graduate. It's something to brag about. Never went on to another school, but my first job was at a hosiery mill, and that was way back when in 19 something, and it was a job that I absolutely hated. I got it was like the ladies' hosiery, and I got in the mending department, and they would hand me a bundle of 20 pairs of stockings and a little shoe with a latch on, and they tell me to hook it on there and zip up those lashes and take those pulls out. And when I got that done, to call them, and they'd bring me another one. And that didn't last but a couple weeks. And I just didn't like that. That wasn't my style. So, and about that time, was the war thing started. And I met my husband when I was 12, and he wasn't in school either, but that's okay. I met Dad, and he was 14, and I was 12, and we met at a party, and I don't know, it just seemed to click right off, and we were together as boyfriend and girlfriend through the rest of school, and then right on through life. What a wonderful man he was. He was just the love of my life. We did so many things together.
Tell about going to Philly.
To what?
How about you and Dad going to Philly and walking on the boardwalk?
To Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would go when we got older, and he had the car. Oh, I have to tell you this. He had this old car, just a two-door car, but an old one. his grandfather didn't want any more. So he fixed it so it would run and dependable. and when my class at school, the extra thing that they do for fun was go to the roller skating rinks, and they'd have these roller skating parties, and everybody wanted to ride in this old car. And the road, it's out in the country, and the last part of the road was a steep hill, and the car just would not make that hill. So the kids would have to unload out of the car, walk up the hill. We'd wait for them to get in the car again, and we'd finish going to the roller rink. And we had a lot of fun at the roller skating parties. We had a few dances at school too. It's but small town like that just didn't have much going on. But we made fun, you know. We didn't need a lot of money to have fun. So, what else was it, Brenda?
All right, go ahead.
In talk now?
Yes.
In the cold weather, we would go ice skating. Our town had a canal going through it, and it joined our town and the town to the south and to the north of us, and they had a path along it. They called it the tow path for the animal to pull the barge, a small barge along there, to get supplies from one town to another. And when it would be real cold, that would freeze over, and there was a dam there that would freeze over, and we'd have ice skating parties, have a big bonfire, and always the hot dogs and marshmallows, and then we'd skate and have an evening of fun. And my mom always wanted me home, always demanded I be home by 9 o'clock at night. Well, it was either the ice skating or the sledding were on this street that they closed off for the kids to be able to sled and not be afraid of traffic. And we wanted to do both, but I was always the first one that had to go home. It used to make me so mad. So, and I knew that if I wasn't home by 9, she'd send my daddy out to look for me. So I'd purposely stay late, not too late, but a little later, and wait for my dad. And we'd walk home together and had some of the best times of my life sharing stuff with my dad. He was a wonderful man. I just loved him so much. And he didn't have too good a life, but he was great, and he was patient, and he was kind, and he loved everybody. Yeah, it was nice, very nice. So then, after the Horseshoe Mill, the war was there, and I applied for this job with the, I just forgot the name. Anyway,
Factory.
Is it Grumman?
Huh?
Was it Grumman?
No. Oh, maybe I'll think of it. Anyway, the plant was underground. You didn't even know it was there. And we'd go down in there when I worked from 8:30 at night until 7 in the morning. And I worked in inspection, and every now and then they would let us go one floor down and watch when they put a motor in action to make sure it was running right, and do a lot of explaining to us. It was very interesting, and we really loved the job. And I remember
What were
the
they building?
day that the peace was declared. We had these bottles at this glass factory where I worked, came down a big conveyor, and they said you don't have to pack any more bottles as you inspect them. If you don't want to, just throw them here in the big bin. So that's what we did. We threw them all in a big bin. Peace was declared. There's not going to be any more war. And we didn't need to make more bottles. So that meant a lot to us because, you know, living with the war, wondering every day if your husband was alive, if he would come back. And my sister at that time lived home too, and her husband was in the service too. And we both, how we looked forward to the skimpy letters that we got from them, and worried and prayed for their safety, and sent boxes and boxes of cookies. But it was all worth it. Then he came home, and we had our own place to live, an apartment.
Why? Why did you have that apartment?
Why?
Yeah, how did you get it?
I just got it. And I heard it was empty. It was in the house next to my doctor. And I heard it was apartment house. And I heard this room was empty. So I went and I got it, but I didn't tell him. And when he came home that night, and we sat in the living room and we talked to my mom and dad at my home. And then he said about being tired, he wanted to go to bed. So he was amazed when we walked out the door and went to our own place because I had kept it all a secret. He didn't know we had one. He really appreciated that. Then he got jobs in that small town. And then later on, his arthritis got really bad, his rheumatism or whatever got really, really bad. Nothing seemed to help him. So the doctor said he had really two choices. He could move to Florida or he could move to Arizona. They were the only two places where he could be comfortable. So guess what? We moved to Florida on December the 19th. We moved to Florida. We had bought a new car, and we had a small travel trailer, and we loaded our two children in there, and we headed south. And it just started a new way of life for us. We stayed in Fort Lauderdale for, I think it was 5 years. I'm not sure. I don't remember too well. And Ross learned tile setting. And we had some friends, and these friends were building a house. And they wanted Ross to do the tile setting like in the bathroom and the windowsills and in the kitchen, you know, and set the tile, make the house pretty. So that's what he did. His dad was a contractor, so he did it in the, not Ross's dad, the French dad. And he did those for a couple of years. And I would have, he would get done work. Let's see, he worked for a sign factory then, putting up billboards. And when he came home from work on a Friday at 5 o'clock, I would have everything ready, including hamburgers. We'd load in the car, and we had this little utility trailer that carried all of his tile tools, and we'd head out and head up to where his dad built these houses, and we'd do all the tile, and our kids would play around while we worked, and it was hard on them, I know, but it all turned out okay. They wouldn't believe us until they saw what we had, and then they felt better. And we landed in Fort Lauderdale first. Can we stop there?
Okay,
Okay.
tell us about the aircraft factory.
The day shift would tease us. They would come in and say, it was a beautiful day out there. We would just love it, you know. And we're underground, we don't know. So we took their word for it. We come up and maybe there's 6 inches of snow. We have to put the chains on before we can even move our cars to drive home. And the first road I got on, getting out of the parking lot, was uphill with a light at the top.
What were you doing underground?
That's where the building was. It was underground. Nobody knew it was there.
But what was your job there?
And I was an inspector of the valves and other things. What are they? Some kind of arms?
Rocker arms?
Yeah.
Engine parts?
Yeah. We would run them through Magnaflux, and if there was a crack in them, the line of the inspection would be broken at the crack, and we would know that one wasn't any good, and we would discard it, and the others we would pass on through that were good, and that was our job.
And it was an airplane part? Y'all built airplanes?
Not built airplanes, only the motors.
Only motors. Okay.
No.
Okay. Pause. We're going to go back in time a little bit because there's some things that you missed out on telling us. You wanted to tell us about when you were in school and you had a musical instrument.
When we did what?
When you were in school and you had a musical instrument.
We were in the school band, and there's 3 of us who could play 3 different instruments, and we would switch back and forth, drive the poor music teacher crazy.
What did you play?
We all played the trombone or the baritone or the I forget what the other one was.
Were you in a band?
Yeah, the school band. We were in the school band and the school orchestra. I was also in the school choir, the church choir, the school glee club.
Okay. Let's move on to after you married Dad and he was in the service. Do you remember where he was stationed?
Yes. Don't you want the story about having to get the marriage license?
Yeah. Tell us about your marriage license.
You want me to do it now?
Yes.
Okay. We decided, Russ and I decided that we'd like to be married before
Look at
he was called for the service. And we knew that the draft would call him pretty soon. So we had to go because I was underage. I was 18. You had to be 20, 21. 21, I guess, and he was underage too. Because the county said we were underage to get a license. We had to take one parent along for each of us. So he took his mom and I took my dad. And my little German grandmother had to go along. And they asked why she was there. She said she had to see why they had to go for us to get married. It was none of their business. So we thought that was quite a joke at the time. And then he got out. He got sent to Africa. He was under Patton in the armored division, and he was with the tanks. He learned to drive a tank, and then sometimes he drove the trucks with the fuel for the tanks. And then they went from there up through Italy.
So he was in Italy?
Mm.
Dad was in Italy?
He was in I can't remember the name in Italy, but there was
in Italy.
a big move, to invade Italy. Sicily, he was in Sicily, in Italy, and went up into Germany. Switzerland, he loved Switzerland, said it was beautiful.
How did you communicate with him then?
I would send, he had like an email letter. We would send, it was a special thing, and it would be supposed to be sent through quicker than regular mail so that the guys would have some mail. And he was taken from his unit when he first went over, and he was taken from February, and he never got any mail until July. And he was afraid I would stop writing, and I was writing at least twice every day. So he got a whole pile of letters in July, and he never got to read them because they were on the move, and they had to just throw them away. They couldn't read them. They had no way to take them, so they just tossed them.
So you and Aunt Dot were pretty worried about him and Uncle Jim at that time, huh?
Yes, we had nerve. We were really worried. Yeah.
So what happened when Dad got back?
When he got back, he couldn't get discharged, and he had to go to a little town not too far from home. And so he got back, and then he had to go to this town and stay for 5 days. He can go through all the paperwork and the discharge and everything before he could come home for good. And we went to the night he first came back to town, we got him and brought him to my mom's place where I was staying, and spent the evening, and he was talking and telling us about some of their their doings, and then we said, no, it's getting late, and he wanted to go home. So he thought maybe we were going to his home for the night. Didn't know it, but I had gotten an apartment and completely furnished it as a surprise for him. And he was really shocked when we went to our own place, and he was so glad. The first month, the nights were really rough. Every noise, every tweak, every click, he was right up out of bed, alert, like he was still living in the service, being cautious. And it was tough getting back to being a civilian again. Yeah.
So then he got a job?
Yeah. Then he got a job working in a stove factory. Yeah, and then he went, he had a good friend that owned a farm and had a dairy. So then he went and worked for him being a milkman.
He was a milkman?
Mm.
He was a milkman?
Yes, he was a milkman.
Didn't he want
for
to
a
be
while?
Didn't he want to be a cop?
He wanted to be a cop. He was a half-inch too short. They wouldn't take him in. He was so disappointed and mad. Yeah. So that was out. He had to be something else. So then his arthritis got so bad. So the doctor gave him a choice. I told you that somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah, we got that.
That's it.
About moving either to Florida or to Arizona. So we decided to make it Florida.
And when you got to Florida, didn't you tell me something about a grumpy old lady?
Yeah. Well, when we decided to go to Florida, we also decided that to look out for ourselves a little bit ahead of time. We had never been to Florida, didn't know anybody who had ever been to Florida. So we bought a new car. I remember it was a Plymouth. And we bought a 27-foot Alma trailer. And our family all went in uproar because we were going to live like gypsies, they said, which was not true, but we couldn't convince them until we took them to the trailer and showed them what all it had. Then they were convinced it was okay. And our first night out, when we stopped, we didn't even get parked yet for the night. And this lady come running up to the trailer, and she said she saw our Pennsylvania tags, and she asked where we were going, and we told her to Florida. And she started, no, you don't want to go to Florida. It's a terrible place. We've been there, and we're going back home. I want to live in Florida. She just went on and on. And I finally, she didn't even give you a chance to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have time to listen, She just kept on, so I finally just told her, I have to feed these children. So we did. And she said when we left her to get their supper, she said, well, after supper, I'm going to come down and I'll tell you just what happened in Florida. I said, okay. So after we got done eating, we turned out all the lights. We sat in the dark until it was time to go to bed. and we went to bed fully dressed. And so she never would find us if she looked in the windows, And we didn't want her down there, couldn't put up with her. So we never saw her again. She just went on and on and on. And I thought, she sure was giving us a lot of confidence for something new that we had never done before, had no idea what it would be like.
Now,
Yeah, he was offered a job in the Stewart, so we went there, and it was the job was to be a milkman, and he did that for a while. But then he heard they were hiring people to work on the bridge for toll collectors, because the bridge had just newly opened, and he applied for that and worked for the state, and he got it. And so he continued working on the state till he retired. And he did it there in Stewart.
how long did you live in Stewart? 7 years?
We lived in Stewart. We finally bought a house in Stewart, and I thought I was set for life. It was an old frame house, like country style, and I loved it. And we had water rights there. We could have a boat if we wanted, and we swam in the river right there. It was just ideal, and I thought we would never ever leave it.
And you had kids in school by this time, right? Ross and Rosalie were in school by this time.
Yeah, but then we had to leave it because he was transferred, and we moved up to Cocoa.
What does that have to do with Perry Como?
When Dad worked on the toll,
Yeah, that's where. Okay, Francis Langford, an old-time movie star, had a home on along the coast there at Denison Beach, which is right next to Stewart. And you had to go over the bridge from the mainland to the island that it was on. And they had to make a toll payment to get across the bridge. And as Perry Como and some of the other music stars would be going over for entertainment or just an evening, they would stop if they weren't in a hurry. They would stop and talk to Dad about the weather and how he liked his job and just general things, And he enjoyed that a lot. He would tease and say, well, guess who his personal friend was?
okay, you had a story about the baby turtles. Let's hear that.
Yeah. Well, we were in Stewart one Saturday. They were, out at the beach. They had this big
The Refuge Center.
yeah, they had the Stewart Beach. Stewart Beach was known as the Refuge. They had a refuge center and all, and they had this big cement block pool, and they were watching the sea life, and somehow, I don't know how they got all these little baby turtles, but there were a lot of them in there, and they were starting to get a little of the fluffy mold or stringy stuff, like grass growing on them in there, and there were so many they couldn't take care of them all, and they asked the townspeople, if they would come out on a Saturday, bring their old toothbrushes and clean the little turtles. And we thought that would be fun. So we did that, and it was fun. We cleaned turtles till we couldn't stand anymore, and then we went home and felt like we really did something good.
Okay. What
When,
happened to your trailer there?
or what?
The tornado.
Oh, yeah, I was coming to that. We lived in this park in the town of Cocoa, and I was working in a drugstore just around the corner from the park, and he was at work at the bridge, bridge, and a storm came over. We didn't really think it was bad. We were up in the office looking out, watching, and the wind out the window, and it was blowing and raining so hard. And we just never thought about it. And when it died down and we could see what happened, we found out it was a small tornado. And the car that was sitting by mine had been picked up and turned around and put down on the other side of mine. But neither one of us had any dents, any problem. It just set it down so gentle. And we were surprised. So then I got a call. My neighbor across the street in the park called the store, said I better come home. And that really scared me. I thought, oh my God, what happened? We got there, and our trailer, which was a double wide, which was the first one that we had ever seen, and the first one in the area, first double wide, was, we had a chain link fence around our place, was leaning, the bottom was up in the air, leaning on, resting on the fence. But it wasn't upside down, it was just tipped. But it was the bridge, the roof was gone, and it was totally ruined. So that was a shock. We had never, ever seen anything like that before. But we moved in with some of Bud's friends. They took care of us till we got something else. Got another trailer on the same spot, but no double wide, just regular home.
How long did you live there? About 10 years?
Yeah, I guess. I have no idea.
Okay, and then you and Dad retired? You and Dad retired? Took a little trip around the United States?
Yeah, we
Talk to Ross.
Yeah, we let me see.
Okay, pause it while she thinks. You decided to travel
Yes,
after Dad retired.
yes.
So,
And we, as planned, we joined up with Dot and Jim, and the four of us, each with our trailers, went out west, drove out west together. And I remember we stopped at a campground outside of St. Louis, and we went up in the arch so we could see what things looked like from up there. And then somebody told us about this store that was so wonderful, and it was the first what's the store we always go to?
Walmart, Kmart?
Yeah, first Walmart. Yeah, they were just starting with the Walmart, and Jim, he always liked gadgets. He just thought it was the best place on earth. And we went on and we stayed. We're close enough where Dolly and Ray could join us, like on a weekend. And we just had more fun, just visited. And maybe swam in the pool and just, kind of loafed around. Then Dot and Jim left and came back, but Ross and I, we decided we'd rather just goof off some more. So we started looking at different attractions that we had heard about. So we went to the name just left me.
Knott's Berry Farm?
No.
Disneyland.
No. I've been to Disneyland. I didn't like it. What's the name of that?
Hershey's chocolate?
No, that's in California.
That's back.
Oh, okay. That's another story.
What's the name of that place out there, that underground place? I'm sorry.
Just pause it and let her.
Yeah, because we had no bathroom, We had a porta potty, but we didn't use it.
What are you talking about?
Where'd you sleep?
With the big ones, we had the bathroom. I thought he was talking about when we just took the truck.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we made the truck. In fact, the back of the truck, made our bed in there, slept like logs. We just had a good time, that's all.
Was the truck covered? It
Hmm?
was? Okay.
Was what?
I just asked if the truck was covered.
Yeah. And they were lost, and they were within the next day they were going to start sending letters home that they were missing in action, and then they found the guys. I said, it's a good thing, because there would have been a fourth person there, I don't think I could have stood it if they'd have told me that my husband was missing or something like that in the war. It's just so bad. So bad.
But then they kept following along,
Yeah.
and they got so hungry they had to eat onions.
I don't
What
know.
was it? You don't remember that?
Happened to him in the war. He had his gun shot out of his hand. That's how close the shot was,
Wow.
But it numbed his hand for a while, especially his fingers.
I can imagine that's forced.
But it didn't cause any sore or anything, you know what I mean?
No permanent damage.
And he came through that okay. He was lucky. He said that, this story goes that Rome has 7 hills.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that?
No.
And he said they would lay on their stomachs to where they were like at the end of a hill, and they were watching the planes coming in, bombarding the city. And he says, that was kind of fun.
Sure.
Scary.
Yeah. And he was driving a fuel truck with gas for the tanks in Africa, and he also drove the tanks. But he was driving this truck with his full tank of gas, and they said that this German plane came in and was shooting the trucks, I guess, and missed his truck by a bare, just a bare inch, they said, that it would have exploded. And, you know, because it was loaded with gasoline, and he was driving for a refill for the tanks.
We
And
came
that was
close to
in
having no
that was
gas.
in Africa. But other than that,
Came close to not being here.
Yeah,
he said that of all the countries that he saw, he liked the Austria, and he liked Switzerland. And Brenda has seen Switzerland, and she said it's really beautiful. Yeah. So I was telling her we didn't walk in every state, but we did put our foot in every state. Because I remember we had the New England states that we didn't get to, and we knew we couldn't make it because Dad's system was failing, you know.
yeah.
So we made a good trip up there, and we followed the map, and we would pick places where there might be 3 or 4 states together,
Yeah,
and we would stand, you know, 1 foot in each one. But we had to get a
say they were
picture.
in every one.
We've had our foot in every one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we have not camped in every one.
Quite an accomplishment.
Well, we were working our way around. We had gone through the states pretty much, and we were on our way kind of home, you know. And we'd take the New England section and up to Labrador, like, you know, there, that peninsula stuff. We'd save that for last, and he couldn't make it. That was the part we missed. We did all the rest. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. And we did Mexico, part of it. We're quite far down in Mexico. So,
You didn't say anything in your story about living up at Riverside either during the summers.
in what?
Riverside Campground.
Where's that?
Remember in North Carolina where you had the trailer there and you had the overtop thing and the porch built onto it by the, you were right next to the,
Remember Zelda?
You remember what?
Zelda. Roy and Zelda.
Snowden, that was a D.
Zelda.
And that's a reef.
Salva? Every summer for
Is that where you did,
Yeah.
you and Dot did all those crafts?
where we did the crafts, yeah. That was in their campground. The guys that helped the owner build a big platform and a pavilion, a big one. In Carlsbad Caverns. And then we went to different rock formations that formed certain things, and I can't tell you what they were, but there's rock formations all through the desert out there. We were staying one place, and everybody in the campground got a notice from the owners to come up and stay in their house there, right there, because they had gotten word from the weather department that there were tornadoes on the way. So, and they didn't want us in the trailers if tornadoes were coming in. So we all went up there, and we had a nice time there visiting, and there were no tornadoes, thank goodness. But we saw a lot of places out there. Went to Yellowstone, and we saw the heads on the mountain, the
You know, the president's heads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mount Rushmore.
yeah, yeah. And we went out to Washington, the state of Washington, saw that big waterfall there, and went down the coast. We spent some time with Diane, visiting her, and we stayed down in a campground near, I don't know, one of the big cities. And their campground was full, but they had a reserve area. And if you had to go in that because the park was full, they gave you a bottle of champagne as a booby price, they said. So Dad said, well, let's go back there again. We went down to, that was a different time when we went down to Mexico.
That was with Aunt Dot and Uncle Jim, though, wasn't it?
No, they
Was
had
that with
left
the
to come
Moors?
home. They had left to come home. We just dilly-dallied around. I think we were gone almost a year, just floating around different places. Somebody would say, oh, you should have been there, should have seen it. So we'd stop and we'd look at it or go back and look at it. And we saw where the cave dwellers this, and then we went across that bridge that's supposed to be the highest one. Near the dam.
Near Hoover Dam.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff right there near Hoover Dam. And of course, we went to Vegas a couple times, and we just kind of dilly-dallied around wherever we wanted to go.
What a life.
Did you see all the states?
We tried.
You tried? Did you see Texas?
Huh? You what?
Did you see Texas?
Texas?
Yeah, did you stop in Texas?
Uh,
You were in New Mexico.
that was a different time we went into Mexico. I didn't tell you about that one. Forgot it. That was when we still only had the truck camper. Yeah, I said, Dad couldn't do that kind of anymore. We had to sit down where he had medical care. And
You bought a park model.
yeah. So then we stayed in Rockledge there in that campground.
And you stayed there until you couldn't anymore.
We stayed there until he passed away,
Okay.
and the world lost a good man.
Okay.
Way back when it was just that's the first time in down to Mexico with just a few. I don't think I even told you about that.
Did the Moores go with you then? Remember Bill Moore?
Yeah, no.
No?
Yeah, I remember them.
All right,
Okay.
you're in Mexico.
Huh?
You're in Mexico.
Yeah. No, they didn't go to Mexico. We had four of us in vehicles, each in their own. went down. We decided we'd go to Mexico, but we all wanted to go together. So this was a vacation trip for work. You know, like you have 2 weeks off at work. Only we conned our bosses into give us 3 weeks. And we bought insurance in the United States to cover us in Texas before we went across the border, which was told be sure to do that from people that had not done it and had trouble. So that's what we did. Then we all drove down to we were in Mexico City, and there was would you remember the name of a Mexico place that everybody wanted to go?
Acapulco?
That might be it. I don't know. Anyway, it was a resort, and we went down that far, and then we camped right outside of that. We were right on the beach, and you could step out the back door from your trailer or from your truck. It was our truck then, and you were almost in the Pacific Ocean, and we're amazed at the water being so cold compared to our Atlantic. Decided that we didn't like the Pacific Ocean. And when we entered Mexico City at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was dark and it was raining, and we didn't know where we were going. And after a bit, two kids in a yellow little Volkswagen came zooming by and said, "Where are you from?" And I told her, "From Florida." And she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "We're looking for the campground." She said, "Follow us." So we did, and they led us right to it. We never would have found it. It was behind a stone wall with sharp pieces of glass sticking up from the top so nobody could climb over. And they called, the next day, they called the travel people to, for different routes to follow for sightseeing. And they said to come down to their office in town, and they would give them what they needed. They said nothing doing. They weren't moving their rigs until they left town, because they'd never find their way back again. And they told them to just sit still, and they sent somebody out to meet them, and they had a van, and that's what they used. We were there 5 days, and for the 5 days, they had the van there every day for us to use to go around. We could see how the temple is sinking in Mexico City, and we had luncheon at some really spiffy place. I don't know the name of it. And then we went out to a nightclub, and we went back this long alley, and we're beginning to wonder if we made the wrong choice or whatever. But we found out it was good. They opened doors like garage doors, and they opened up, and it was like going into a spring house with the flowers and the water and the music, and it was just beautiful. We were so surprised. We thoroughly enjoyed that visit. And someone had told us before we left home to buy food and to not eat any of theirs because everybody always got sick. So we loaded up with things that were not perishable, or yeah. And so we'd have food, you know. We got there, and shoot, we ate all their food. Nobody got sick. We had a wonderful time. And especially this one crippled lady.
They didn't have land raised.
And every fall or every time when we met there, we would ask,
It was on the Skelton Creek.
did anybody learn anything new over the summer? And then we would try to make it, you know. And we had lots of fun. But then I got really into my counter cross stitch, like over there in the wall and stuff. I don't know.
And they had band guys that had instruments would get together and play,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and they would have
And
people come in, bands come in and play, and they would dance, and they play bingo.
Yeah, in the mountains and in the small towns like that, everybody could play an instrument or sing or do some kind of a dance or something, you know. And there was always music.
Nice.
Always music. And the firehouse was right across the road from the campground. And every Friday, the firemen would put on a supper. All you could eat was $5. And I mean, totally good supper, dessert, and everything. Oh boy, they were good dinners. And they also provided the music.
Nice.
Yeah, everybody, I think everybody there could play a banjo or a guitar or something, you know.
And it was right near the Blue Ridge Parkway,
Yeah,
so you could go up on the parkway. When we would go visit, we would always go
Yeah.
different directions. They'd show us stuff on the parkway, and then Ray and I would go off on our own and go on some hikes.
Grandfather Mountain, huh?
Oh yeah, we did Grandfather Mountain.
Yeah,
We had,
Yeah.
that was a beautiful place. They were
Yeah.
so happy there.
yeah, the mountains there on the Blue Ridge are really nice. And we did walk a little bit on the,
Appalachian Tree.
yeah, the trail, tell her.
Yeah, we have a place near us called Max Patch.
That's where she went on the Appalachian.
Yeah, and it's naked on top. There's no trees. It's just real grassy surface, but it's up above where you can see everything, 360-degree view all the way around. It's beautiful. But the Appalachian Trail runs right through there, and it's marked. So we had her walk on the Appalachian Trail a ways, so she could say that she had done that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
also,
nice campground. They planted a big garden so you could walk out if you wanted some corn or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
walk out and pick
yeah.
it.
nice.
Yeah.
Also,
Crabtree.
also, I don't think you mentioned anything about your airplane adventure when on your, was it 70th, 80th birthday, something?
Remember the biplane you and Brenda?
Oh,
flew?
yeah.
You should talk about that a bit.
By way of flow.
Yeah, I can tell about that. I would have done that again.
6 miles from North
Which birthday was that, Bud?
That was,
Do you remember?
I remember. She was, her hang gliding, I think she was 90 when she hang
that was
glided.
when I was 90, wasn't it, Bud?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just, I loved that. That was wonderful.
What, the hang gliding?
It was,
And then she went up.
yeah.
The hang gliding or the bi-wing plane?
It was with a guy with
What was the hang gliding, the kite?
yeah,
Oh, you like that, huh?
yeah. And
I
it
did
was
that
so
up on
nice.
the
Everything was so beautiful because you were looking down. And
You didn't have an engine, right?
no, didn't have an engine.
So it was silent.
And it just, I don't know, it just seemed so perfect. You know, it didn't look like anything was spoiled or anything. Everything looked so perfect. It was beautiful.
Did you feel like a bird?
Yeah, and no noise, and you were just there floating along like you didn't have a care in the world. And I
Sweet.
don't know, it was just nice. Yeah, this,
And then in the biplane, you went out over the ocean, Port Canaveral, and did loops and rolls.
yeah, we were. Yeah, that was the ride
Enjoyed
from
that.
Merritt Island. We got the plane at Merritt Island Airport and took that ride. Went out over a little bit over land and then over the ocean, and yeah. And the guy saw we enjoyed the over the trips. So he didn't usually do them, but we enjoyed them, so we did them.
My stomach won't take that.
I was on one of those, with a guy that did those.
So,
As soon as I step on land,
across the state
Tampa,
to when he
St. Pete.
we had to report
Yeah.
to get in the Coast Guard.
they were so big.
It was there, you know, that was where they was gonna put it, right in the Coast Guard right there. Oh, I felt so bad. I was losing my baby boy, you know. I cried all the way back to the East Coast of the state. I was just sure he wasn't made of that tough stuff. He was gonna come home.
He'd be there one day and come home.
Yeah.
Fooled you, didn't he?
Huh?
He fooled you, didn't
He
he?
sure did.
Shallow water.
Yeah, he did so well. For a guy, when he went in there, he was so bashful. You wouldn't believe it was him. I mean, he was totally different, you know. You say boo to him, you know, he was so shy. I said, that was why I felt so bad.
Yeah.
Because I told Ross, I said, that kid, they're just going to kill him because, you know, he's going to, every time they make a remark or something, he's just going to wilt, you know.
Every
And
time
Lord,
they tease him.
at the end of the basic training, who was the leader? Him.
Led the whole ceremony, didn't it?
Yes, you did. Yeah, you surprised us. You sure did. We had the truck camper then, and we couldn't take it on the Coast Guard property, but we could take it to the Coast Guard fence. There was a place there where a gate where you guys could come out, right?
Right.
And so the day that they graduated, they went through the ceremonies. We were parked in that space there. So when it was over, he could come out to spend the time with us. And I was cooking, pork chops, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was making pork chops for him, and these guys were walking by smelling his pork chops. Everybody wanted to come in.
That's what got me with her. Pork chops.
He used to eat well,
When I'd be on duty.
you know. How many pork chops do you want? We were camped at South Carolina at that holiday, that big popular place in South Carolina on the coast.
Hilton Head?
Yeah. Anyway, we were parked there, not in the island, but on the coast right there. And there was a parade. I think it was the 4th of July. And so we got out of the way of the parade, you know, it was over here. And we were like, not half a block away, you know, watching it. And I said, "Hi, Vanna." It was Vanna White.
Oh my gosh.
And she waved back. She says, "Hi." Ah. So
Wow.
that was the end of my popularity.
Oh. Well, no, when you guys were on Price is Right,
He lived right down the street from me.
when Aunt Dot was on the Price is Right, remember?
He had a massive part of
Oh, just to see it.
Yeah, but you guys were down in the front, so every time the camera was on those
Oh, but
four
that,
contestants in the front that give the first bid so they know which one goes up on stage,
yeah,
you could see Mom and Dad.
Wow.
that was Aunt Dot won that.
Yeah, she won.
Yeah, she won that. She was a contestant on there.
What did she
She won her gas stove, wasn't it?
A gas stove and $800 or something like that.
I thought it was $2,200.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Ross had a brother who was a salesman, and he could get you to kind of to those things out there in California, you know. So we got in to see that.
Oh, yeah?
That was so cool. Go
And
ahead.
I had a visitor one day, and I was in my trailer. This is in the campground over across the way here. And the man that works in the park said, "You have a company. Somebody wants to see you." So I went to the door, and I didn't see anybody. And he says, "Well, look." And I looked out. I just looked up when he said that to see if I saw a face. You know what you could do. And I looked. I had an alligator in my yard. I don't even live near a pond or nothing. And I wondered where in the world and how did he get there? It was about 4 or 5 foot long, and it was a hot day, and so I didn't know what to do. So the man there called the animal rescue, and they came. And while they were waiting, the alligator had enough sense to get under my car where it was cooler and waited for him.
Oh, jeez.
Was no trouble at all.
I wonder how he got there.
I don't know. And why, you know?